Oh, okay. I knew it somewhere. Okay, welcome everybody. Good morning, Mike. Morning, everybody. And I'm sure everybody else will chime in during the course of the morning. So it's Peter Giblett and Dave Wheeler here to welcome you to Talking Niagara this morning. It is Thursday, November the 6th. Wow.
Yes, indeed it
What have you
is.
done? What have you done to the year?
I don't know. Somewhere in the middle of January, I think I first says, "Well, we better start getting ready for Christmas because it's just around the corner," and that's just what it is.
Yeah, I know. We're 7 weeks away. 7 weeks minus 1 day away from Christmas. There you go.
That's it.
That's it. That's it. And I suppose you can just about, if you're working in stores and things like that, I suppose it might be excusable over the weekend to get your Christmas tat out.
Yes, you could do that. Yeah, very much.
I think it's a bit early. And but still, I think it's 6 weeks is good enough for Christmas. For Christmas, your Christmas sales campaign.
Yeah, I'm.
But which office has already got Christmas decorations up, or at least starting to have Christmas decorations up? Thank you, Brianna. Our one is.
Ho ho ho.
Oh, she's found a whole heap of things to start kind of wrapping up nice Christmas gifts and things.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, and make the place look interesting.
All right. Yeah, okay. Women are usually pretty good at that. I gotta hand it. When it comes to decorating homes and making it festival like, and I don't know, women get into it more than men do. They do a better job too.
Well, she took the Halloween stuff down. As soon as the Halloween stuff down, she's putting the Christmas stuff up. Okay, so just before we get into anything this morning, we've got just over the next 48 hours. Ice Dogs are playing in tonight in St. Catharines, and Saturday night they're playing in Pennsylvania against the Erie. What's that Erie team? Erie Otters from Pennsylvania, and this is OHL tonight. And other things to do. We've got Voyage celebrating the journey of music taking place at the Avalon Theatre. One of the best Journey tribute bands, Voyage, right? And Honeymoon Suite are playing at First Ontario Performing Arts Centre. There you go.
I wonder how many original members they still have. I don't
know. Interesting. They, seen them play a couple of times. I don't think any of the original members were still in them.
Yeah.
When I've seen them play, but still, they're always a changing lineup.
Yeah, these bands have been around for a very long time.
Yeah. Okay.
And at one time, they had 7 Platters bands moving around. I think there was only one original Platter in one of those bands.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on. Downsview has been selected as a first location for a federal modular housing plan, and basically a couple of things that are going on. Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow has basically announced 425 million city funding and 280 million of federal funding, which combines to expand the Black Creek trunk sewer, which is a 1960 sewage plant, and to unlock new potential for these Downsview homes.
Yeah, it sounds interesting. We've heard this before. We heard it way back in the Trudeau era. I think it was Fraser was the guy when the first housing crisis began. Well, when it became really, really evident that the Canadian public were really being hurt by the housing crisis, the federal government decided to look into its old plans of wartime housing. And what it came up with, it decided, well, that might be the way to go to get these wartime houses, which they had all kinds of plans for in the old days. They had plans for them spawned by the federal government back after the war. And we find that they've done the same thing basically, but I just kind of modernized everything and learned how to build these things in modular form.
Yeah, basically, so you're building them in a factory, transport it. The building them in a factory, laying out slabs of concrete in an area, the basement of the concrete area, and then pulling these things in a modular form.
Yeah, I saw modular construction already when they were building a retirement home up on, what was it, Oakwood Drive there, I think it was. And I could see the trucks come in with like I said, big sections. They'd have huge sections with doors and windows already built into them, and they would take that section and fit it into another section.
Yeah.
And I watched the craneman and the iron worker putting it, hooking up the stuff. I thought it was very, very quick. Now the advantage of, as long as your dimensions are consistent, and this is a big deal, that you can do this. Like modular houses or pre-built houses are nothing new. But what is new is the sophistication that's come about. Like they were able to do much better, much more accurate, much bigger modular housing now.
Yeah, there's a new one going up on Stanley North at the corner of Portage and Stanley North, where basically they're not modular homes, but what they're bringing in is pre-cast concrete slabs.
Yeah. That's basically what to do. The modular home is just basically the same thing. Well, these are modulated. Basically, they are pre-built in a factory someplace and then put together.
Yeah. So what is happening if you've got, they're currently building the second floor. What they've been lowering into place is the concrete floors for that particular level, which of course is the ceiling between the first and second floor. They've been lowering them into place, and now yesterday they started lowering the walls in on top of them.
Yeah, that you could count that as being modular because it's being built. Designed and built elsewhere, and then just put together. In place.
And the good thing about that particular one is there's already an apartment building on that site. This is the second apartment building in the complex, and what they're effectively doing is they're bringing in, instead of having hundreds of workers and lots of mess with trucks going in and out of the complex, causing a complete and utter mess. They've minimized the disruption that the pre-existing tenants have got.
Yeah, well, with computer design and everything, they can make these very, very tight fit tolerances, and they have complete control over the quality of the concrete. And they of each different floor slab that is put up will be reinforced in such a way. But when it was done in place, you'd have to depend on the weather, and you'd have to depend on the curing time of the concrete when it was poured and certain weather times. You can build this 24. Well, you can build it every day of the year now because all of this stuff is made indoor under conditions.
But the only thing
the quality of the each different slab is almost exact, which is good because and it's faster because otherwise in place, doing all that in place depends on the weather, depends on a lot of different things.
Well, and you're getting, like the ground floor, once they built the lift shafts, once the lift shafts were in place and built, the ground floor was actually done in about a week. The whole framework for the ground floor was put in a week.
Yeah, they can build them very fast now. So the modular homes they're talking about in this particular article is something, and of course it looks like their test case is going to be this Downsview area, which used to be an old airport sort of facility. They're going to turn that over to this modular homes and try to keep everything pretty much affordable. And we found sadly that a lot of mid-income people are now seeking out low-income, what would normally have been low-income housing, because they can't afford mid-level housing, basically. So this is trying, this among other efforts are trying to change that trend, make moderate homes affordable to moderate income people, so that they can actually go ahead with nonprofits and low-income housing as well. So it seems to be a mixed-use thing. The industrial modular thing just means that they can put them up a lot faster. Of course, we need more. Unfortunately, we did have a lot of efforts to put more housing together, but we really didn't satisfy the need for moderate to low-income housing, which leaves a lot of people without homes and still unable to buy. And we have a lot of extra homes now that can't be sold because they're in a price range that's beyond the average person. The builders were not pressed enough to focus on the kind of thing, that housing that was really required. So they have extra stock where people are still looking for homes of moderate value. So if something's wrong there, the response, the building response did not truly hit that market that was needing.
Yeah. All right. Next one is small. Niagara Falls is running this Operation Smooth Roads, and it's a 5-year plan to upgrade, repair, and renew streets across our community. But I'm kind of wondering, having been around here and looked at a few places, there's a few places now whereby we've still got some places that haven't been, that have still got ruts in, 10-year-old ruts in the roads.
Yeah, it's kind of baffling. Basically, I hear this anytime when I'm with Paul K. Lemire in a show or listening to a show. He quite often talks about the roads, but on the other hand, he talks about the millions of dollars going into trails that we may not need because we have a multitude of trails already, and yet the places in which we do most of our traveling are the roads, and a lot of them are in pretty bad shape.
And I think I share the same opinion as Paul. I'm not opposed to the building of the trails, but they kind of come secondary to the roads, which have got some of these roads have got pretty dangerous ruts in them, and the ruts have been building and expanding for the last, for much of the last 15 or 20 years.
Yeah, it's yeah, so that it seems to be an initiative now. Eric Nichols, he feels that our roads for a city our size aren't that bad, but we have to put more effort into fixing the ones we do have. I think that's a constant complaint in Niagara, is the state of our roads.
Yeah.
And so this seems to be an effort to zero in on that, a specific move to zero in on that. Now, earlier on, when our sewers were too old, our sewer system under the roads was very old. They would just do patchwork on the roads until they could tear them up, do the sewers, and then put the road back on.
Well, they haven't.
So that was one of the things that delayed a lot of resurfacing of roads.
Yeah.
Because you'd have to dig. You didn't want to dig up a brand new laid road to get at the old sewers, so you left the old road going until you could get at the sewers.
Yeah, but they still haven't finished that particular. They still haven't finished that job. The sewage. The sewage conversion project.
Well, it's a multi-year project basically, because that's a major capital.
It's been going on for at least 15 years. I just note there's no signs around the city anymore saying Jim Diodati announces the new sewage separation project. Because it's
I think these are major capital projects, because obviously you got to dig out the whole road. Yeah. Go down to where the sewers are, switch them over. That's a big capital. It's major.
They've just done the area around 6th Avenue and between Bridge and Montrose. They've done 6th Avenue and the sorry, it's not 6th Avenue. It's Homewood and the associated roads up in that block.
Well, you see, and until they've done that, they would have put off any major road resurfacing.
Yeah.
Until that job was done. If they have sewers to be done planned 10 years from now at a certain section in the city, they may go ahead and fix the road as best they can for that 10 years. But if they expect they're going to be there within a few years, they will not do any major work on the resurfacing or redoing a road until they can get at that, because that's a waste of money. And as a matter of fact, that's what happened early on when they would resurface a road, and that was their priority. And then they found, now we got to fix the sewers. So they tear up a road that they just put in a few years earlier.
You see, over the last couple of months, they've been dealing with Homewood, Elm, Maple, Huron, and those areas that are up just to the east of the Stanley Avenue area there at Stanley and Bridge.
Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of been this year's block.
Yeah.
And that's only in the quarter of the city that I know, of course, that I travel in a lot. So. And I no doubt there's other areas going on. There's other streets going on. Right.
Yeah. So Eric Nicholas says our roads are our biggest asset.
They are.
And to quote him, at least half our roads in the city are in good or very good condition, which is actually encouraging. But we need to get these complaints about the other half. So if you're only half your road, of course he puts a positive spin on there. Oh, half of our roads are good or very good. Well, yeah, that's only half.
Well, it works. And you see, I'm fortunate to have been one of the early streets in this sewage separation. Ours was done back around about 2014, I guess. But the trouble is, of course, our roads are going to become one of those where we're going to need new expansion sewers or something like that going in. So now we'll then see them dug up and new new bits of extensions put into the roads and humps in the roads now, won't we?
Yeah, you'd see something like that. But anyway, we can expect signs now, an advertisement, so the taxpayer will be aware of what's been going on. I think this is a move too, where there's been some issues with people kind of really understanding where that tax money is going, despite all the graphs and things you can get off of the city website and other places. People, of course, you don't really have time to do all that, but when you get a sign, they're going to be signs like Operation Smooth Road signs and updates intended to cue that smoother travels are on the way. So basically what they're doing is making people aware of this is a specific initiative by the municipal government to fix and make better our roads. I think that's a good idea, because people get too frustrated when they go down a bumpy road and they're thinking, what's the city doing? And then of course, naturally, they always look to their neighbors and see, oh, hey, they got a better road than we do, or they get their snow taken out better than we do. What's going on, and this kind of thing. But I think education is a thing. So I think governments should do that, should make people aware of what they're doing with their tax dollars. Whether they're doing it efficiently or not, I don't know. You can dig down if you want to the contractual basis, the contracts that go out, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But visual displays of what the government's doing for you and how they're spending your taxes is a good starting point for the average person.
Yeah, and I think part of it is actually, I think a lot of problems with a lot of people is that they don't feel they're notified well enough in advance.
There's actually a page on its website dedicated to this initiative.
Okay, well, that's good. Yeah. All right, let's move on. Canada will reduce the international students permit by more than half. This is an announcement by Jolly, isn't it? No, not Jolly. How
far back are you going here?
This is a yesterday article.
Yesterday? That's the one I put yesterday?
Yeah.
It's in line with the...
Yeah, but there's also another where Ottawa is seeking mass visa cancellation to deter fraud from India as well.
Yeah, this is there's a couple of different ones, and one that I just posted yesterday. Canada will reduce international student permits by more than half.
Yeah. Now,
there's a couple of different articles there. No, we'll just go with the last one for now. We, of course, our students, the amount of students and temporary residents and all that have ballooned for a long time. And that article that regards Indian immigration too is a factor in this. Now, the government, of course, is reducing the amount of students coming in, refocusing its immigration on permanent residencies, reducing that number from 500,000 down to 380,000, focusing on more already skilled people. The student thing hasn't worked. We have an enormous amount of people in the country that are our temporary status. Basically, I think it's like 3 to 4 million people. Something. It's incredible. So they're trying to reduce that amount. And the business about Indian students in specific.
Yeah, the student visas have come down from 300,000 to 150,000, which is way more manageable. The 300,000 level was, there was just no excuse for it.
The idea, though, that there was this focus on Indian students, like it doesn't say that in the article, but in a previous article it did where I posted. I just can't find it now. But the fact of the matter is that Indian, and this is happening in the States too, and this is coming at the same time. I'm hearing reports from the States as well that they're reducing in a big way Indian immigration, and this has caused some diplomatic furor, of course. But the matter is the Indians and Bangladeshis, to a lesser extent, have found loopholes and ways of, it's a real business, getting people into Canada and the United States. Canada is an easier entry point, but they can also do it in the States, where they come up with fake sort of accreditations and that, get them visas, get them into the States and Canada. We know for a fact that many of the so-called students that came into Canada actually came into Canada because they paid agents in India to get them in, and the agents took care of whatever qualifications they might need. However phony they may have been, or if you needed a high school education in math to come to Canada to study math, basically, they could fudge that up pretty quick and get you over here. And we found that a lot of students that came only went, if they even did go, for the first couple of months, and then they just kind of disappeared into the ether. So, and of course, we always hear about, basement loads of Uber drivers and things of that kind. So they had a pretty slick flim-flam method that flim-flammed the Canadian government pretty easily, and that doesn't surprise me one bit. So we had a disproportionate amount of Indian and, to a lesser extent, Bangladeshis, because they had a better system of falsifying documents or whatever you want to get into these places.
Yeah, and it's not to say that every person who comes from India or Bangladesh has got false documents. Absolutely not. But there has been a known problem about falsified documents.
Yes.
Right. And it's the falsified documents that I think embarrasses Canada so much.
Yeah, it made us look really stupid.
Yeah, it does.
It really did.
Especially when you've got people who've got higher qualifications that have fought hard to get those qualifications, and they're finding themselves, lower down the queue to get into Canada than some people with fake documents.
Yeah, it's always been like, and of course, there's been a reaction to all of this. Immigration advocates and refugee advocates and all of that have come out and kind of complained about this. They say that this is turning on the back. And of course, I think they are obliged to complain about it because they don't want the government to go too far with this. But when you have, like I mentioned this before, when we were at a hotel for conference one time, there was a lad there from a young man from Kenya, and he was working the hotel, and that was his job. But he had two jobs, and the other job was setting up the buffet for refugees in the hotels here in Canada, or in Niagara Falls, I mean. And that was really irksome to him because he had come over the proper way, come in as an immigrant and try to establish himself. Was working two low-paying jobs, and what he saw, he says these people were, that even as some of them from his own country, from Kenya, were there getting a buffet breakfast every day, a buffet meal every day, and he was pinching his pennies because he had to do two jobs to stay up, and yet here they had cell phones, nice clothes, a buffet breakfast, and he's thinking to himself, boy, maybe I went the wrong way here.
Yeah. And yet he did everything right, and there's other, and you see, Kenya is not exactly a place that you can say that, the Kenyans that come here, if they're coming in refugee status, are almost always economic refugees, not political refugees, because it's one of the more stable governments in Africa.
Yeah, I met a few of the refugees from Kenya, and they were the Roxham Road types. They were all young. They're all very well dressed. They all had Apple iPhones, and I'm thinking, wow, they're doing all right. I don't know. Now, these programs are supposed to begin to halt, and I don't know how long it will take for that to happen.
Yeah.
And what will then happen after that they may just be moved into a less visible sort of welfare state that right now it's glaring. All these people that have refugee status. Now, a lot of them are trying to get jobs because when I was at the Staples store drumming up donations, by the way, I got $8,345 worth of donations there.
Oh, that's good.
And so working with Kiwanis, and people come in, I would talk to them, and a lot of them were just there to try to find a job, and they came from all over the world. Basically, they were some of them and trying desperately to get a job because now they're pretty much being asked to do that, to get into the workforce and get away from being subsidized.
Yeah,
that's a tough thing when you're in a, you put into Niagara Falls because it had all kinds of hotels, but you're also putting him into a place that has always had a series of economic difficulties.
And getting jobs has always been the challenge for the refugees anyway, isn't it? Because while Immigration Refugee Canada makes it clear they want them getting jobs, they've also provided a stable income without having a job.
Yeah, it's going to be very curious. Like some of them have some of the ones I met had very limited English. Others were well spoken in English with an accent, but you could clearly understand them. So you could, they might be able to get some jobs in the tourist industry.
I met one.
The problem is the entry level jobs that these people are going to get are going to be low paying.
Yeah, I met one of these gentlemen who was actually an Arab. And he didn't have, his English was very poor. He was using a translation app for everything he needed to say.
Where was his origin?
Saudi Arabia.
So was he a Saudi or was he just some
I don't know. Somewhere in the Arab world he came from. He was speaking Arabic, but he was relying upon a translation app to translate it all into English. He had very poor English.
Yeah.
Which actually surprises me because if he comes from Saudi Arabia, most Saudis in my past experience have always been good at English.
Well, he may not be as well educated,
That's true. I don't know I don't know. It's a limited interaction. I don't know any of the gentleman's history, but it's just the way it was that he was trying to use an app, and maybe he just wasn't confident in English.
Possibly too.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but then again, there was some Ukrainian workers that I came across a little while ago, and they were doing building work, and they were using, when I was speaking to them, they were using an app to translate everything into Russian or Ukrainian.
Yeah. Well. Yeah, it's very handy. It's very handy to have that kind of thing. I remember talking to taxi drivers with the app in Thailand and Cambodia and stuff like that as well.
Yeah. Well, and I bet you wish you'd have had that app when you were working in Libya and places like that years and years ago.
Well, yeah, it sure would have been handy. But actually what happened in the camp, you came up with this separate language. So you had the Arab speaker speaking Arab. And even there was a lot of problems because the amount of Arab dialects we had in our camp.
Yeah.
One Arab speaker couldn't understand another Arab speaker. But so you ended up with this sort of pidgin sort of language that was made up of some Arab and some English words, Yeah.
Yeah. Which would be enough to get you practically around the camp.
Yeah. So it was kind of like a special little mid section kind of language. It was very basic that,
but one
trunk,
of course,
banana truck, you'd have a nickname for every kind of truck so they know which one you want. Banana truck, hami garbage, so go take the garbage really fast, get it out of here kind of thing,
Yeah. Okay. And but again, the impact of language is a concern, because typically the past generations that have come in through the normal route, English or French is an important part of that decision about whether a migrant is going to be allowed to come to Canada.
Yeah, true. And a lot of that is fluffed as well. We find that this is a big problem. We've discussed it among doctors and stuff like that don't have the fluency level to be able to write the tests and to practice, because their English isn't good enough for that. So that's why you have doctors being Uber drivers, sort of thing.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. But it happens just pretty much everywhere else. Now, if you're a tradesman or something like that, you're a plumber, and you know how to do that, you don't need much language there. I don't know how many construction sites I was on as young men where there were a lot of Italians on them, and they have very limited English. You found a way, because it was work. You only needed a few words and things to describe what you're doing.
Yeah.
So.
And a lot of that is like left, right. You can learn those things, right? Left, right, up, down, stop, go. A lot of that is relatively easy to learn. Anyway, and
if they went to the wrong place, you just wave your hands. What do you do?
yeah, exactly. Right. Okay. So one of the things you said in there, I have to congratulate you on the $83.45 worth of donations.
In 1 cent.
And 1 cent. Oh,
in 1 cent. $8,345.
Make sure you use the cent correctly. Okay.
I might just steal that.
No, you're not allowed to steal it. You're not allowed to steal it. You're a honorable person. You make sure you put the 1 cent into a fund that's going to turn it from 1 cent to $1.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, congratulations on that. All right, moving on. Where am I? Oh, yeah, I saw this one. Hajj Ahmad Family Foundation donates $500,000 to support Niagara College healthcare education. Now, the Hajj Ahmad is actually a local medical researcher, who's done a lot of work in various medical things, and actually very a lot of local is encouraged a lot of local medical research.
Well, Hajj means man who's gone to the holy places. So that so I don't think it's his real first name. It's just Hajj Ahmad.
This is not a first name. The family name is Hajj Ahmed.
Hajj Ahmed. Oh, okay. Right. Because the Hajj part, I looked at that and I thought, that'd be like my nickname in Libya among the Libyans and Palestinians was Hajj Daoud, which means David who's gone to the holy places. Of course, that was a complete joke because I was young, and it usually is given to an older guy, as a term of respect. So it was kind of like an ironic nickname, Hajj Daoud, because I was a young white guy that wasn't Arabic or wasn't Islamic, not a Muslim, and they called me Hajj Daoud.
Yeah.
But anyway, so this is very encouraging. I don't know anything about that foundation up until now. Do you know anything about it?
I don't know anything about the. I don't know anything about the family foundation. I do know that he's a genetic researcher, and his company's in Thorold.
Well, he's laying 500 grand to Niagara College. That is a lot of money for Niagara College.
Yeah,
that is a real windfall.
Yeah,
I think. Anyway, my hat's off to this foundation and the family that has come up with this foundation. Very encouraging that he is a local guy, obviously local businessman of some note, and has specific skills apparently, and come up with $500,000 to support Niagara College. Oh, can't say nothing more nice about the guy.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And he runs a company which I think is a genetics company. I think it's called Next Gen. But
what do they do?
As I said, genetic research.
So it's genetic research, but they must be making some kind of money doing that.
I'm not 100% sure about it. I know a little bit about it. I've encountered the company before, but that's all I know. Right. Interesting thing is that Niagara College President Sean Kennedy, you and I both know, is basically thanking, of course, the Hajjamed family for this donation.
Yeah, of course. I would say thank them with bells and whistles and that kind of thing. Yeah, well, 500 grand going to a college like that, that's wonderful, particularly in this area where we really need the help.
Well, and it's to support healthcare education, which of course means that if you think about it, even if they only get one a year person coming out of this to work for them, that'll help them anyway. It comes back. Those sort of things come back in circles, don't they?
I suppose so. Yeah, they could be doing it for reasons that would benefit them, but I have a feeling that it is is done more out of beneficence myself.
Oh, I believe so, and the point being is, as I understand it, Dr. Hajjamed believes in supporting healthcare and expanding healthcare.
Yeah,
the research associated with that has a lot of value to society.
Well done. Anyway, thanks big time for that. And anytime you've got obviously a wealthy guy turning some of his coin back over into the community, that's a wonderful thing. Unfortunately, we have to do that. I just saw Karen come up. Hi, Karen.
Yeah. So good morning. Yeah.
So anytime someone's putting out their own coin and helping the community, that's a good thing. Unfortunately, we do rely on a lot of that because we don't have enough. And I point out that the service clubs like the one I have, I belong to Kiwanis. It's almost we do these things because there isn't enough money otherwise. So this is a great investment. You said he might be even part of the investment, hoping the company hoping that they will get some of the graduates out of there to help work for them. But I have a feeling that it's a general. I think it's just pretty much when you get a lot of money, what do you do with it? You start giving it away. The Carney, Andrew Carney is probably the biggest example of that. When he sold all his assets, then he took all the money he had, or most of the money he had, and then started giving it away.
Yeah.
He built 5,000 libraries, including the one in our town here.
Yeah.
The one is no longer used as a library, but the old library that's now the Wayne Campbell building. that was one of his. So you see what happens with Wayne Gates, or not Wayne, Bill Gates, when he had an extraordinary amount of money.
I was about to mention him because he's gone from one of the richest people on the planet to actually putting a lot of things into the Bill Gates Foundation, which have been to help disenfranchised people around the world.
Well, he's gone around and trying to. He put a huge amount of money into experimenting with a vaccination for malaria, which is still the number one killer in the world, is malaria. Yeah. So that kind of thing.
And they've been putting, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation have been putting a lot of that out to getting malaria vaccines across Africa.
And I spoke to
other foreign nations. Yeah.
See how the world is today. Like, I spoke to a young woman from Malaysia who worked in the labs in Atlanta and was part of the effort to come up with a vaccine for malaria, and so I thought that was pretty cool.
Okay, all right. Yeah, let's give them. Okay, so next item. We're closer to are we closer to a Gaza International Peace Force? There was a meeting in Istanbul this week. Foreign ministers from Arab Islamic states have met to discuss the Gaza ceasefire and the use of an international peace force.
The Israelis are going to resist.
Yeah.
Now the rest of the countries involved in and around there, there is of course a huge disruption throughout the Middle East. We see Syria is all factional. We find Turkey flexing its muscles. Hezbollah is on its back foot. The Lebanese government is, nearly non-functional. The Iraqis are still fighting among themselves, the Sunnis, the Kurds, and the Shias. Saudi Arabia has remained somewhat stable. Jordan is holding on, and Egypt's in tough shape. But they're all looking at what's going to happen in Gaza because the pressure on those governments about what's happened to the Palestinians in Gaza and how they feel they had no ability to step in there and do anything because Israel was protected by the United States. So Turkey and Egypt and all those, and Saudi could not really step in militarily. They couldn't even force in aid when it was required because the United States put up the fences that the Israelis maintained, or the other way around. Israelis put up the fences that the Americans maintained for them with all their money.
And of course, the other thing
about the amount of bombs that were bombed in Gaza, you're talking about World War II levels in a little tiny place. And the place is an absolute mess. The political faction of Hamas was the one that ran Hamas. The everyday things like your taxes, your homes, the roads, the schools, and all that was done by the political wing. Something like when Sinn Féin, the IRA is the military end of Sinn Féin, but Sinn Féin itself is the political part of the IRA, if you like. And so Hamas had the same thing. It had its political wing and it had its military wing. Well, the political wing took care of all that kind of things, the day-to-day mundane things of daily government, roads, streets, water, the stuff that normally every government takes care of. Well, that's all collapsed. It's all and then you have roving street gangs. You have other factions fighting with Hamas right now. And the Israelis playing one against the other, feeding one faction against Hamas and then feeding Hamas against the other faction, that kind of thing. So it's going to take an international force to come in there, but the Israelis don't want anybody in there. They want to shut it down.
And the other question here is, of course, there's been, according to at the time this article was written, 236 Palestinians that have been killed by Israeli forces in Gaza since the ceasefire began.
Yeah, and they keep using withholding supplies like food and medicine stuff to punish the population every time they don't like what's happening.
Yeah.
And one of the most egregious things is when they, you do have these roving bands of there's complete chaos right now. Well, when the Israelis ran over one of their own munitions and blew themselves up, they immediately started bombing the Hamas all the crazy until they realized it was their own munitions, unexploded munitions that they rolled over and that nobody shot at them, but they just blew up themselves with some old munitions that didn't explode previously.
Yeah.
So you got to find all kinds of stories like that going on. And what I want to know, I want the international journalism in Gaza right now. There's supposed to be a ceasefire. If there's a ceasefire, get the international journalists in there.
Yeah,
but they're not going. The Israelis are not going to want that either.
Well, and I'm also in any situation like this. I also support the need for an international peace force, because it would be much better to have, Turkish or Libyan or Kenyan forces in there than it would be to have Israelis in there.
The Israelis are not going to like to have the Turks in there. That's for sure. They may permit the Qataris.
Yeah, hey, I'm not trying to actually predetermine what that is. I just picked 3 countries at random.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of international presence the Israelis will permit. They've made it very clear to J.D. Vance they're still the boss. When J.D. Vance, I mentioned this a few times, when J.D. Vance was in front of the Knesset voted to annex the West Bank, which Trump had clearly said that the West Bank will not be annexed, and yet right in front of J.D. Vance, they voted to annex it. And then he was forced to explain that away as, it was only symbolic, it was religious, this kind of thing. So he's backpedaling, and he can't even say, look, shut up, you're going to do what we're going to tell you to do now, or you get no more bombs. But he can't even do that.
Yeah.
And so Israel is still calling the shots in every way. There may have been a Trump-inspired ceasefire, but Israel's one that's calling the shots in every possible way possible. Yeah. There's been no complaints. There's been no issues come up from the American government. Said, look, you just killed another 100 people here, 20 people there. What are you doing? We're trying to get the ceasefire going, and then you're withholding more aid and stuff as a punishment to Hamas. Well, Hamas is falling apart basically. So there is mass chaos. There's 82% of, I don't know why they come up with these numbers, but 82% of the buildings unlivable in Gaza, and they get 2 million people wandering from this place to another, being forced here and being forced there. So the whole thing is a madhouse. And if you do not get somebody international in there, and that is exactly what the Israelis do not want, when the UN controlled Jerusalem, that's the first outfit they wanted out of there. Every time when the UN was in Palestine and Israel, they wanted them out, and they got them out so they could do what they wanted to do. Let's be very clear. The Israeli government wants to annex the West Bank, and it wants to push all the Arabs out. Yeah. It wants to make their lives so miserable that they can't help but go anywhere else. And you can barely find a Christian Palestinian anywhere in the West Bank anymore, because their homes and villages have been taken over by the settler movement. And you find none of these big Christian organizations like Charlie Kirk's or anyone else will ever say anything about Palestinian Christians, because they're wedded to the idea of the Jews must go back to the Holy Land so the end of the earth can happen. Don't ask me why.
Okay. So, yeah. I don't know about that one, but still. All right.
Well, that was the motivation of a lot of religious thinkers. In the Bible that says,
Yeah, I know. I've heard it before, so I just was like, yeah, okay. I hear you, but I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure about that one. Okay, so Monty, good morning, everybody. Red Dress basically saying Bill Gates doing a great problem with the overpopulation through his vaccines. Okay.
Something to do with overpopulation. What do you mean by that? Could you put that up again so I could read it?
Bill Gates is doing a great job with the overpopulation problem through his funding of vaccines.
RFK has uncovered a lot of science. Canada seems to be actively suppressing of vaccine science. That is yet to be really.
I think RFK is not exactly a scientist.
No, he's not a scientist, and he's had no real science background, as far as I know. I'm not so sure where RFK sits in this. Now, the idea that Bill Gates is adding to overpopulation with the vaccines, which tells me that commentator understands the vaccine saves lives, and the vaccines that are going into Africa and other places is saving people from needless suffering. Yeah, but the vaccines have exploded the population already.
No,
in many of these areas, like because they don't die of the ordinary diseases like smallpox and everything else that people did die of. Now, the problem in North America, where we are all protected with vaccines and everything, our population is actually going down. And I do believe that same thing is going to happen in countries that stabilize their populations and become more prosperous. Their family sizes will come down. Because one of the things they're also doing in places like that is helping people with contraception, so that African families or Asian families don't end up with 12 kids that they can't feed. So they introduce contraception to keep family sizes down and manageable. So when you bring in vaccines and you make everybody healthier, then you can sort of work the other part of the health aspects is things like contraception and family planning and that. And I don't mean abortion. I don't include that in family planning myself, but I mean contraception. So there's a number of factors that are involved in this. So when we focus just on vaccines, we're not really doing, let's say, the Gates Foundation a whole lot of credit, because it's a multifaceted foundation. It's not just sitting on vaccines; it's also doing the other things.
Well, and also it's got to be said that RFK is not a science person at all. He's in fact an anti-science person.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about that guy, because when he talks about health and the kind of chemicals that are added to our foods, and the Fruit Loops kind of thing. The U.S. has Fruit Loops that are much more brighter than the Fruit Loops in Canada, because they're allowed to put a lot more chemicals in it, and we don't allow that. So they have to have natural colors in Canadian Fruit Loops, but they're a lot less brighter and sparklier than the ones in the U.S. So when he makes comparisons like that, he's absolutely right when he talks about chemicals and stuff, additives into food. On the other hand, when he comes talking about vaccines and the mRNA foundations of the more modern vaccines, particularly for COVID and stuff like that, I really don't think he knows what he's talking about.
Exactly. And
so I have mixed feelings. Yeah, when he talks about the American population getting too fat and diabetes exploding all over the place, and the chemicals that are dumped into our food. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I can get behind the guy. But when he starts talking about vaccines and stuff like that, and you compare it with other scientists or real scientists and the way they talk about it, I'm really not quite sure he's on the right move. That whole business about vaccines causing autism has been debunked long ago, but it seems to be sustaining itself.
And why are we hearing these stories when
and what he based those conclusions on and completely dispelled it. But once it was in the mindset of people, then people became afraid, and that kind of suspicion keeps going. It's kind of like the Illuminati thing. Illuminati was over 200 years old, but still, it seems to be out there in the in the conspiracy world.
Oh, I get letters from them every day, saying we need you to join us. Yeah, thank you.
Well, I every night I sleep with some aluminum on my head so they can't get into it.
All right, and I think we can kind of leave it there, right?
Yes, and without further ado, I bid you adieu. Everyone, think of Gaza. Let's hope and pray that the U.S. can actually that Trump can keep his attention on it long enough for something to happen, as in peace, as in the people being fed there and being slow come back to a viable place to live. Israelis failed in pushing them out of Gaza, but we have the problem that there are settlers that are trying to get in there, and the U.S. will always look the other way because of the powerful Israeli lobby in the United States. And anyway, without further ado, I bid you adieu and have a great day.
All right. Bye.